Hello, everyone, and welcome to Feature Fridays. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us today. We are very excited for today's feature as we are unveiling a brand new tool that will help all of our clubs in the sort of chaotic time that we live in at this point. So it's very excited to show that off and help you guys out with some new features. My name is Garrett Trott. I'm part of the support team here at Uplifter, and joining me today is the one and only. Let's all shout it to our droids on the station here. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Jackie Kwan.
You actually said that to
Yes.
everyone. Thank you so much, Garrett.
I want everyone to call you Obi-Kwan from now on.
First of all, I didn't want to correct you because in my mind, I like to call you our product expert because that's really what you are. So not just a support representative. So,
He's so
all
nice.
things ins and outs in terms of Uplifter, you're definitely an expert. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. So first off, I just want to let everybody know we've been working very hard in the background here as everybody has been at home working on different things and social distancing and all the rest. We've been working very hard on this feature remotely from our different locations, knowing that we have a whole number of clubs that need this help very quickly. We had actually targeted to release this feature earlier in the week, but as we started receiving all the different requests from all the different clubs in terms of their needs, we realized, oh, we need to handle this use case and this use case. So we've had to hold the release back by just a few days just so that we could just capture a few more use cases from those different clubs. I will tell you right now, will this solve 100% of all the clubs that are using Uplifter in terms of the refunds that they need to perform? I'm going to say no. But I'm going to say that we've hit a lot of them on the mark, and there are just some cases where if you've got some very special pricing going on, or if you need to refund every member a different amount, you're probably not going to be able to do this in the use this feature in this way. But you might be able to streamline a few of those options and speed up the process just a little bit. So without further ado, I'm going to show you what we call our batch invoice feature. The feature right now has not yet been launched. We actually do plan on launching it later this afternoon. I just wanted to do this webinar, show everybody how it works, and if you log into your system by the end of the day, you'll see this, and you'll see this very clearly at the top of the screen. So in order to access this, you need to be an administrator. And you also need to be an administrator that has access to both edit invoices and to as well to perform refunds, because this feature will allow you to do both. We actually originally thought of this feature in a use case where we had a number of clubs ask us, I'd like to be able to apply a payment or a charge to a whole bunch of people all at once. And so we had this sort of brewing in the background. Then when COVID-19 hit and all the different elements of that impacted all of our clubs, I realized very quickly we could retool this feature and actually start building it, but also have refunds in mind. So in order to access this, you need to be logged into your administrative site. You need to go to accounting and invoices. And I forgot to, I always do this before I start. I refresh my page just in case I accidentally logged out. No, good, okay. And I should have done that as you were chatting. So, so a couple of things that we've actually done here. So first of all, you access this from the invoices because you are going to be batch adding or editing to a number of your invoices. And as well, it's also important for PCI compliance. So with PCI compliance, if you are actually going to perform additional charges to anybody's credit card that they may have entered previously on a different invoice, you need to make sure that you are working with invoices, which would imply that you are working with content. Working with the contracts that you have existing with your clients that have actually already performed credit card payments with you. I'm sorry, Garrett, I was really distracted there. I apologize.
I know. I
Can we
think
like
that was my
rewind?
fault, wasn't it? Because I sent a message.
Can we rewind and pretend that I didn't say the last thing that I did 2 minutes ago? Man. Okay, you'll edit this out later, right? Okay,
Absolutely.
excellent. So let me start that again. So in terms of PCI compliance, it's really important that you do this from the invoice manager, because the invoice manager implies that you have already a pre-existing relationship with these members. And if they actually have performed their provided their credit card, you applying those additional fees to any of their credit cards would be part of that that compliance. So we've done it in the invoice manager to keep that clear. A couple of things that we've also done here. In doing this, using this feature, we do recommend actually working with small batches of invoices at a time. So don't try and perform a refund to all 3,000 of your members all at once. There's a lot of different calculations that are going on in the background, and it's just going to take a long time. In a lot of cases, it will process, but it will take so long that you will think that it has somehow stalled, because it does have to make connections to Bambora if it's performing a charge or a refund, and also do all these calculations. Not only that, but because you're actually making mass financial transactions all at once, we do recommend that you work in smaller batches, 50, 100 invoices at a time, so that you can actually review those changes and make sure they do exactly what it is that you expect them to do. So work in smaller batches. So there's a number of different ways that you can actually do this. So we've actually added a nice little feature here in the invoice filter, where you can actually type in a comma-separated list of different invoices that you might be looking for. So this will allow you to, as you're trying to figure out who am I going to be performing these refunds for, how do I find them? It might be that you're pulling a report from one of the other reports we have within Uplifter and defining, okay, these 10 invoices, I need to refund them $300. These 10 invoices, I need to refund them $100. As I said, the feature is usable to also adding charges, but today, because I know that this is a hot button topic for everybody, we're going to focus on the process of actually refunding. So in this case, you're probably going to be doing something like filtering your invoices, probably by class, maybe by category level, so that you can refund people a little bit at a time. So if you go down to the filter for program and subscription, in this case, I'm going to say I'm going to start off with refunding this CanSkate 5.6 invoice here, or class. Once I filter that, I'll see that I actually have 4 invoices that are affected by this filter that I've applied. A couple of things of note, you'll notice that all of these invoices have sort of different amounts. Looking at the amount of this last invoice from John Smith, I'm going to assume that he has a number of different line items on his invoice. And as well, you'll also notice things like each of these members have paid in different methods. This one paid by both credit card and gift certificate, cash, check. So we have a wide array here of different invoices here that we want to apply these batch edits to. So once we launch this feature, you'll see here near the top, and if you have access, as I mentioned, this button called Batch Invoice. So from here, you'll click it. This will then take the invoices that you filtered from this page and allow you to work with them in different ways. So the first thing you'll notice is that you'll see a summary of the 4 invoices that we just filtered for. You'll see there that it found us the 4 invoices, and as well, you'll see this other column on the right-hand side called filtered items. So with the filtered items, this tells me, because I was actually searching specifically for a program on the previous page, that these are the line items affected by the filter that I selected on my first selection. One of the things you'll also notice is that by default, we've auto defaulted selected excluding withdrawn participants. Chances are, if you're editing an invoice at this point in time, you're not dealing with people that have already withdrawn from your program. But if for some reason you are, you can certainly deselect that and add those to your filter selection. One thing I'm also going to show you, as well as I'm going to click on this one invoice here. So this invoice says that there's 3 filtered items that are affected. But this was the invoice that was over $6,000, and so the programs would be outrageously expensive if that were the case. But you can see on this invoice here, he's got a number of different items. Wow, his kids are really, really active in our club. So he's got about 16 items. But you'll notice that only 3 were selected, and that's because on that invoice, there were only 3 items for the one program that I selected. So this is important because this is going to show you how we're going to apply the batch edits in the next step. So if for some reason you actually want some of these edits to apply to all of the items on your invoice, you can actually just click that, only filtered matched invoice items, and it will show you that now we are going to actually apply some of these edits based on all of the items on all of the invoices. In this case, however, and this is typically our recommendation unless you've sort of thought through this already in terms of your existing invoices, I probably suggest that you probably want to work with just the invoice items that you've got in place. So from there, now that we've actually selected the invoices and the invoice items that we want to work with, we're going to determine how we're going to batch edit. So in this case, you will be able to either add an additional product or program. And this is very useful. For example, let's say you've got a competition or maybe an ice show or a gala, and everybody who's registered, you want to be able to give them, they should get, their ice show tickets at $50 each as opposed to the $100. What this would do is for every person who's registered for this one program, it would add a Nutcracker ticket to their invoice and then charge them for it. But in this case, what we're probably going to be doing in the cases of refunding is we're either adding an adjustment to each of these individual lines that we've selected, or perhaps we're just adding a custom line for each of these items that we've selected. So let's go through these options here. With add adjustment, you will be able to create an adjustment title, and this is just like as if you were working on your invoice edit page, and where you click editing the item and you add an adjustment. It's the same idea. So in this case, what we're doing is we're going to add the same adjustment to all of these items that we found here. So in this case, we're going to say we're doing a COVID-19 shutdown. And if you decide that you'd actually like to add it instead as a custom line, you can do that as well. So the difference between that would be, instead of doing it here, I'm just going to cancel my changes there. If you go to add subscription or product, adding a custom line would be just doing the same thing as this, where it just adds a line to the bottom of your invoice. So you do have the option of either adding it as an adjustment to the specific items or adding it as a separate line. And each of you will have your own different cases as to why you might be using those different options. So you can apply a price. Now, if you want to actually apply a refund or a reversal, you'll want to use the negative, the negative sign. So in this case, I'm going to apply a, let's say, $150 credit for everybody because I've calculated that there was, X number of classes left. There was 10 classes left before the end of the season, and we're shut down, and the rink is closed or our facility's been closed, and we know that we have to refund them for the 10 classes, let's say. So I've calculated that out for $150 for this one class. And I'm going to add that adjustment per filtered item. Now, depending on what you've selected here, you might have different options. So for example, if I'm adding a custom line, you might actually have the option to add it for a filter for each particular member. So if I were to select this option, you'll see in this list, I would apply one for Debbie, I would apply one for Alan, and then one for John. So we've given you quite a bit of flexibility here. Another option is perhaps filtered participant, where, for example, maybe Alan has 2 different kids on the 2 different invoices. So by selecting filtered participant, it would only add that custom line once per participant. So in this case, we're going to use filtered invoice item. As I mentioned, we're going to give that $150 refund. Select accept. Now you can actually add multiple batch edits at a single time. So let's say you need to actually do a reversal on the actual class that they've attended, and as well, let's say you've also filtered for their membership fee or their annual Skate Canada fee or registration fee, and you want to add that as well, and you want to give everybody a $10 credit for that. There's nothing saying you can't add another item and provide another adjustment of a different type. So lots of different options, and you'll be able to see how that affects the invoice later on. What happens next is you can also select what's called a batch payment name. This is a required field. This field is unique for each batch that you work on. So if you are working in small groups, this will help you isolate any of the payments that are affected by the things that you've done after this. So I believe this is my Actually, let's go over to my payments manager. Whatever it is that you select in this space, you also are able to isolate any of the payment transactions that actually have occurred from this on the payments page. So under accounting and payments, if you slide down to your filters, once we've actually saved this, you'll be able to find any of the financial transactions by filtering by batch name. This will help you guys keep things sorted later on. You can also add an invoice note and also make that invoice note private. Again, same sort of features that you would actually receive on the invoice editing page. Once you've filled those elements out, you can click Next. From here, this gives you a quick summary of what we've been able to find. So we know that for this first invoice, we found this item that you wanted to actually perform these batch edits for. We've performed the $150 adjustment to that, and the transaction balance that we actually have to act upon will be shown to you at the bottom. So in that case, there's one. In this case, there's another one here. In this case, there's another one. But under John Smith's invoice, you'll see that it actually adds 3 different adjustments, one for each of the programs. And we'll do a refund for $450 because there were 3 kids in that class for them. You'll also be able to, on the left-hand side, see all the filters that you've added to this point. Now, if you look at this and you realize this isn't exactly what I was expecting, certainly click the previous button, redo your changes, and then see how that's going to apply. The next thing that you have to decide is, because there might be a change in the amount that's either owed or refunded, you have to determine how are those financial transactions going to be handled. So what Uplifter will do is it'll offer you a list of what different payment methods are available to you given the list that has been provided. So in the case of refunds, what it will do is there is at least one invoice here, for example, that has pending payments. So in the case where you're a club where you actually have provided installment payments, and you know that there's an installment coming out on the 1st of the month, and you want to make sure that those installments get deducted first so that the parents aren't charged because of the shutdown, you can choose to select pending payments, and that's where the first option of refunds are going to be applied. In this case, you will probably want to deselect prioritize last payments first. What Uplifter will do is take all the pending payments on an invoice, sort them in reverse order, thinking that, you know, as a club, you might want to collect your money first. But if in this case we're in a bit of an odd case where we actually want to prevent the first installments that's upcoming very next to before with the refund, you'll probably want to deselect that option. You'll also notice that after I selected pending payments, it offered me another refund method. And that's because not all the invoices here have enough pending payments to refund the amounts that are shown. So it's going to ask you for, well, if I can't actually refund everything on the pending payments, what do I do next? Well, in this case, I actually want to refund people's credit cards. And, you know, and this is going to differ from club to club. So if you actually want to refund the credit cards, then after it finds all the pending payments, it will then default to trying to provide a refund to the credit cards. You can add with each of the different payment methods, you'll be provided an option to select a different note or different options for notes or approval codes. And then the last step that I'm going to say is, okay, well, there's something I'm not actually able to refund the credit card amounts on all of these invoices. So Uplifter is going to ask you for one more payment method, which is, well, you know what? If I'm not able to refund all the credit cards, let's do everything on gift certificate. So once we've determined in the background that the payment method will cover off all of the refund amounts here, it will stop asking you for more options. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm going to refund the pending payments first, then I'm going to refund the credit cards, and then anything else is going to go on gift certificate or credit on account. But let's say you're a club that that has a no refund policy at all, and you only provide credit on account. Well, then what you can do is right off the bat, just select gift certificate. And that means that all of these refunds will be applied directly to a gift certificate, and you won't actually perform any credit card refunds. So I'm going to do a little combination here of, actually no, let's do a pending payment, and then let's do a gift certificate afterwards. So from here, I'm going to click next. It's then going to show me again a summary of what it is that Uplifter thinks it's supposed to do as part of this huge batch invoice that you're creating. So it's going to show me I've got Debbie's invoice here. I've got the adjustment of minus $150. And in this case, I'm going to refund her $150 to gift certificate. In this case here on the second invoice, you're going to see that, yes, I'm going to refund $150, but this is also this is going to be completed by reducing a bunch of pending payments and then as well refunding the gift certificate. And down here, you'll see the other options as well. So this one, refund, and this one, you'll see the other refunds here. The other option that you'll see here is a checkbox beside each invoice, where if you're looking at this going, there's something not quite right with this one. I don't want to refund this one, or I know that I've refunded this one already because the person, you know, came into the office just before we had to shut down, and I don't need to deal with that. You can actually deselect any of the invoices that you don't want to apply to this batch invoice edit. And then from there, once you're happy with this, you'll click Save. Now, a couple of things of note. Once you click Save, any credit card transactions that you're performing a refund on will, they'll save, but they will actually perform the refunds in sequence in the background after you've clicked Save. There is quite a bit of work to do in terms of being able to contact Bambora on each of these credit cards and make sure that they apply. So you might get a payment notification after all of those complete, and you might notice that your reports are changing as those refunds are being performed in the background. With all other payments for a refund, they will be marked immediately as paid because they're considered a refund. You'll be able to pull a report, and you'll be able to, if you need to write checks for people, you can certainly do that. The gift certificates will automatically be added to individuals' accounts and whatnot. In terms of if you're applying a payment where you're actually collecting fees from them, all the payments will be marked as pending with the current time for the payment time. So if it's a check or a cash payment or an offline payment, you'll be able to update those as you receive that money in place. And for credit cards, it will automatically process on the overnight process where it does all of the batch processing every night. So that gives you a chance, just in case with any of the charges, if you seem to have made a mistake or you think, oh, you know, this person didn't want to do credit cards, that gives you until the overnight automated processes to make any corrections, just in case you don't want those credit cards charged. So, so from here, I'm going to click Save, and what will happen is it will complete everything in the background, and not only that, it will automatically download a copy of the invoice detailed report for you to review so that you can actually see the changes that applied. So I'm just bringing that up. It's just taking a second to come up on my screen here so I can move it over. So you can see here the different invoices that were updated. You can see the adjustments that were made, and you can see how the payments were applied. Come on, move over. There we go. So you can see that with these invoices, the gift certificate payment was applied, or gift certificate refund was applied for $150 for each of the invoices. So if you need to then work with any of those payments or take a closer look, as I mentioned, you can certainly come to the payments page and search for the payments based off of the batch name. Garrett, did I forget anything?
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Can you actually repeat all that?
All of it?
Probably just the whole thing.
Hold on, didn't you record this so that you can watch it later?
Yeah, of course. No, I think that is everything. You did a wonderful job, and you actually stayed within the 20-minute time frame, which I'm very impressed.
I tried really hard. The team actually is currently working on the documentation for this. So I know that there are a lot of options with this feature. Keep in mind that once we do launch the feature, you'll be able to go to our help center, our learning center, and find the article on the batch edits with the different details. We're very quickly trying to roll out the French elements. The French elements might take until Monday, but you on our team will be very happy to help any of our French customers once we roll this out. I think that's about it. And again, I apologize that we did take a few extra days than we had expected to actually complete this. Again, it was about all of those additional use cases. My lead architect and myself, we kept on doing a Steve Jobs on each other. Just one more thing. Just one more thing. Oh, I can do just one more thing, and it just
stops.
and it never stops, even up until like last night at 10. So we've stopped, and we're going to release what we have. We are going to be releasing additional features to this feature over the next week. For example, being able to make some of these edits to apply on a new invoice. That will be coming in the short term, but I didn't think it was applicable to how people are using this feature right now. And another option that we're actually going to be hopefully releasing early next week will be the option to be able to delete items off of an invoice as well. So keep all of that in mind. So if we can save you a few extra clicks next week by waiting for some of those features, please let us know on by sending us an email at support@uplifterinc.com to ask us how to use this feature. And if you have any questions, as always, you know where to find us. Garrett, anything else that I might have missed in my mad rush to show all these features here?
No, I think you did a great job. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I hope that everyone stays safe, happy, and healthy. And if you do have any questions, as Jackie noted, please reach out to us anytime at support@uplifterinc.com.
Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe, and we will see you again next week. Are we talking about recurring subscriptions next week? Or are we gonna?
I believe so.
Okay, recurring subscriptions next week. So join us next week, especially if you're at home social distancing. Spend a little bit of time with us on Friday afternoon, 1 o'clock Eastern time on Facebook Live. Thank you again. I am Jackie from Uplifter and Garrett Trod. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.